Now, Glenn had mentioned that how do you know in the whole book, you know, how things are going to fall? And you look at a spread, but how does the next page line up? Our text block being here, and in this book, it actually isn't. Our text block falls down a line farther. But because of how this chapter laid out, I needed to move this spread up a line. So it's a line up from the text block. The text block is actually down here. And one of the things that affected this book tremendously is the number of subheads in the book. There were a ton of subheads in it. And one of the rules with subheads is you need to have at least 2 lines of text when your subhead falls at the bottom of the page. So you have a subhead and then 2 lines of text. This one actually fortunately got 3. And I didn't put 4 because of how the rest of the chapter fell. So you got to look at the whole chapter together. You can't just design one page and think, oh, that looked great. Well, you can, but then you'll go back and change it. Sheree?
Is that part of what they call widows and orphans?
Ah, we're going to get to that. Okay. We're going to get to, and that widows and orphans affect the line length. So one of the things that's very important in book design is that your lines across the spread line up. See how these line up exactly? You don't want those staggered unless it's the last chapter, the last page in the chapter. So see how those line up? That is important, from that one page line up across from the other page. So when you're looking at the book, you don't have one ended way up here. And so that's what gets kind of tricky about book design. And there's some other thing I want to tell you about that. Well, it escaped me. It'll come back to me. So we know our text block is here. You can go up a line, or you can actually go up 2 lines. You have a leeway of 2 lines. But from spread to spread, you can only do 1 line difference. So for instance, this is up 1 line. Our next one is right on that text block line. So it's right on it. We have 1 up, right on it. And then the next one could be 1 over or 1 up, but you wouldn't want to go 2 up or 2 over, because that's a difference of 2 from spread to spread. Does that make sense? Clear as mud? No? Made sense. Oh, very good. Kind of a hard concept to get. Oh, and that's what I was going to tell you. If you're editing your book while the designer is trying to do this, it will just drive the designer crazy. And if you're the one designing your book and you're editing while you're doing this, it will drive you crazy, because we're trying to make everything line up. And then the author comes, oh, by the way, I changed that paragraph. Oh, okay, well, that's, you know, that was your 20-page chapter, and I get to redo the chapter. Plus, it may, depending on how close it falls to the next chapter, it may affect the next chapter. So very, very, very extremely important that you edit your book prior to it going to design, and then resist the temptation of editing it again once it comes back from design, because that'll cost you money if you're changing things at that point, because the designer has to change it. If you have a comma or a period here or there, or 1 letter here or there, it's not going to affect anything. But even just changing a word can potentially affect the whole line. Like you'll see this line this paragraph very close to the end here. If they wanted to put a larger word in, it could drop it down to the next line. Well, my point just being, please edit prior to design.